over for you!
I shall pity not your enemies. I shall heed not their pleas.
Somebody shoot these...
I shall betray not your tenets, nor stray one step from them. Take not your gaze from me. Leave me not without your grace.
I told you he would protect us.
My God, my light, my Emperor.
Welcome to Warhammer 40k Rogue Trader, a game where you play one of the most privileged individuals in the Imperium of Man. Rogue Trader was released and published by Owlcat Games on the 7th of December 2023. You may know Owlcat Games for the two Pathfinder cRPGs, Kingmaker and Wrath of the Righteous. Let's address a question immediately. Do you have to know the Warhammer 40k lore to play this game? No. The game provides lore dumps through dialogues and events. I'll say you just have to consider the setting motto. In the grim darkness of the future, there is only war. And you're set to go. I'm not going to explain the immense Warhammer 40k lore. It would be impossible, and my personal knowledge of recent years' changes is limited. Since Warhammer 40k is mostly a tabletop wargame, you choose an army and fight everything else. So, role-playing this universe means submerging yourself in a setting where everyone wants everyone else dead. Racism is the norm, and a single life is worth nothing. Expect a lot of violence and gore. Everything is exaggerated and huge. By the time I'm done with this review, the game received a few patches, the 1.1 being the biggest among them. But while balancing some aspects of the game and fixing bugs, it doesn't change the bulk of the game, with its pros and cons, which is what I'm talking about here. After 4 runs, 1 per conviction and 1 with a higher difficulty, I feel pretty confident in saying that this is an enjoyable game with a mix of a min-maxer wet dream and extreme clunkiness. Let's get into it. Let's address the elephant in the room immediately. Being an Owlcat Games product, if you experienced the two Pathfinders games at launch, you're surely going to wonder, is this game playable or do I need to wait? I haven't found any blocking bugs, but there are people complaining on the internet that Chapter 4 was broken, preventing progress in the game. So it refers to a very specific situation where it has been patched while I was playing the game. That being said, there are a lot of minor bugs that can be a little annoying. From egregious T-poses to part of the combat UI disappearing, they are easily ignored or fixed with a reload. Sometimes abilities or talents don't work as they should, and this is a bummer because you invested your level up in them. But you can retrain your characters 3 times for free and at a cost after that. That cost is a non-renewable resource, so it's high. As often happens with these kinds of games, later on you'll be so strong it won't matter. Some achievements did not unlock while the conditions have been met, or one was granted for free to me without doing anything. Others are simply not reachable due to bugs, and this is a bummer. Sometimes the hologram, the placeholder for your next move in ground or ship combat, is not showing or working at all. There is some great banter between companions that are not present in the current party, and that's kind of hilarious. Sometimes, in ground combat, the cover overlay won't show up properly, or in ship combat, the movement overlay will disappear. A bug that particularly annoyed me was about some colony projects that were supposed to grant conviction points, but they simply didn't. It's not well polished, but it's still a pretty decent and fun game in my book, if frustrating at times. Owlcat is reinvesting in adding more voiced line to the game, and this is good.
You have ceded the opening that was offered to you in a woeful display of meekness. Admittedly, this tendency is equally strong in all who toil in the Emperor's service. Immutable hierarchy, absolute obedience, lickspittlery, compulsion to please. I value none of these things. From the moment my envoys came for you, the terms of your existence changed.
Also, they have a history of supporting their games for a very long time, so I expect a lot of these issues to be solved in the future. The first thing the game will ask you is at what difficulty you want to play. As per Owlcat Games tradition, but also with other cRPGs, notice how the normal difficulty is not normal at all, giving you bonuses. The way the game is meant to be played, in my opinion, is daring, so you will play in the most balanced way. Daring is what in other games will be called core difficulty or core rules. If you are a cRPG veteran, you may as well try the hard or unfair difficulties, but in my experience, those only complicate the early game. Later, you'll be a beast no matter what. Also, worthy of note is that with the amount of buffs and extra turns the support classes are going to give in this game, unfair difficulty may feel more manageable than in the Pathfinder games. You can also customize pretty much all the options with a custom difficulty. Character creation is the second thing the game will present you, and most likely you will feel overwhelmed. I felt it, and I've been playing RPGs for a long time. That's why I say this is a min-maxer's wet dream. With something like 160 talents to choose from when leveling up, and all the choices presented to you, you will most likely really understand how everything works only by the end of Chapter 2. In an era where RPGs are simplifying themselves to appeal to the most players and attract new ones, this is a choice that will place this game as a niche inside a niche. I find it a peculiar choice, but then I remembered the Pathfinder game's character creation system, so it shouldn't be unexpected. There are a lot of broken builds out there, but without using them, after I got my bearings with the system, by half of Chapter 2, I ended up with a pretty strong party. Also, it won't help if you are familiar with the original Rogue Trader manual. Aside from the lore and some naming conventions, the system had been reworked. I won't describe all the talents or abilities of the character creation system, or this video will never end. At first, you have to choose between a pre-generated character or creating a custom one. Most likely you are going to create your own, so choose a portrait, the appearance, and the voice. Honestly, I never spent too much time in this section. The model you get already tries to match the portrait, and the character graphics are not that good in cRPGs, Baldur's Gate 3 aside. Also, I never zoom in to look at them up close. Play whatever role you may like, you'll find enough companions to fill all the roles, and with a party of 6 members you can cover all your bases. This is one of the big pluses of this game compared to PG3. A 6 members party is going to give you way more freedom of choice. Then you have to choose your home world between some different kinds of Warhammer 40k universe worlds. Or to be a voidborn, meaning you were born on a spaceship or space station. Every choice has different bonuses and maluses, so choose something that will synergize with the type of character you want to build. Or don't, if you want to have the challenge. Worthy of note, the talents you'll see at the end of the homeworld window are not automatically gained, but you can select them leveling up. The origin is what your career was before being a rogue trader. Consider it a sort of background. It will give you abilities, more bonuses, and a new little pool of talents to choose from when leveling up. For Triumph and Darkest Hour, you'll have to choose the apex and the worst moment of your background, adding a new bonus and a malus. Then the Archetypes, meaning your class. You have to choose between 4 basic classes that you will follow for your first 15 ranks, meaning levels. Every basic class will grant you access to 3 advanced classes, so plan in advance the role you want to play. From rank 16 for the next 20 ones, you'll level your advanced class, gaining more powerful talents and abilities, and from rank 36 you'll become an exemplar. No classes here, just very powerful talents to choose from, and more characteristics and skill advancements. You'll enter an advanced class as soon as you start Chapter 2, and become an exemplar near the end of Chapter 3. You'll level up pretty fast. Finally, distribute some points in your characteristics, possibly the useful ones for your role. Name your voidship, your character, and go. If you have multiple ship choices, be aware that they are just for flavor, except for the Firestorm one, that will not grant you torpedoes at the beginning of the game, and that's a problem. I know I just given you a general view, but going into detail will require hours. One last thing regarding your character. The game has an alignment system, if you will. They are called convictions. But instead of choosing one and making choices that will confirm or stray away from that, like in the Pathfinder video games, here you'll start blank, and your alignment will be shaped by the decisions you'll make while playing. The 3 convictions are: Iconoclast, the decent guy who cares about his subjects and his companions, often resolves to diplomacy instead of killing everything that moves. Dogmatic, the Imperium loyalist, and if you know anything about the setting, you know this is not the good guy, and is very trigger happy. Heretic, the bad guy. While for the Imperium everything not dogmatic is heresy, this really is the evil path. You can mix and match those 3, making different aligned decisions, but accumulating points in a single conviction will unlock new talents and dialogue options, so I suggest sticking with one. Choose beforehand if your playthrough is going to be an Iconoclast, a Dogmatic, or a Heretic one. Or don't, and enjoy freedom of choice. I'm going to warn you though, with Dogmatic you are going to execute a lot of key people, even your companions, for failing you at the Imperium of Man. With Heretic, a lot of people will die, and some companions will leave you. So to enjoy the most content the game has to offer, you need to be Iconoclast, being the less conflicting conviction. To be honest with you, while being a Dogmatic can be fun at times, I found the most satisfaction playing the Iconoclast and Heretic convictions. I'll provide an overview of the story, aiming to avoid spoilers, but if you want to go completely blind into the game, maybe skip this part. You are a rogue trader heir, chosen by one of the 3 rogue traders of the Coronos Expanse. Rogue traders are nobles of the Imperium of Mankind of the highest stock, enjoying a lot of freedoms other Imperium citizens cannot even dream of. They are part conquerors, part prince merchants, part rulers. They are granted the sacred warrant of trade by the Emperor himself, or so they claim, given the Emperor's apparent demise. Consider it a sort of letter of marque and reprisal from the Age of Sails era. Rogue traders are often dubious but relentless individuals, sent to the fringes of the Imperium to explore, exploit, and colonize new systems, effectively expanding the Imperium's borders. They also form dynasties, passing the warrant on to a member of the family deemed worthy. A rogue trader can almost do whatever they want and behave as they please, and often this will lead them to clash with the Imperial Inquisition. Whether the Inquisition retains the power to investigate and accuse such a high-ranking figure is a matter of debate, but they can certainly make their life much more difficult. The game's story will span a prologue and 5 chapters. During these, you will face various threats to your protectorate, not a single antagonist. It feels a little bit like Games Workshop itself told Owlcat Games to showcase a wide chunk of lore and enemies for promotional purposes. As my knowledge of the setting is vastly outdated, this game compelled me to update it by reading parts of the extensive Warhammer 40k wiki, and I started wondering, when is the game taking place? There are a few hints here and there talking about what seems to be the Great Rift, and some late-game talents about the Psychic Awakening, so I'll say the game takes place after the fall of Cadia and in the era Indomitus. By the way, as far as I know, everything in this game has been vetted by Games Workshop, so nothing here is really canon-breaking. There are a couple of really strange things happening that I wasn't expecting, but I'll talk about that in the proper sections. Also, consider that the Coronos Expanse has been created for the TTRPG named Rogue Trader. It is a very isolated and far region of the galaxy, so anything happening here has really low chances to affect the canon. The prologue will be a general tutorial, where you'll learn the basics of the game mechanics. Done in an immersive way, I approve. Some disaster will happen and you'll find yourself the new Rogue Trader, so buckle up. Chapters 1 through 5 will introduce you to the growing threats you'll face. They vary in length, with Chapter 2 being the longest if you explore all of your domain. Chapter 3 will break up the monotony of exploration and management. Chapter 4 will return you to ruling and exploring, while the 5th serves as a conclusion. A conclusion that draws inspiration from a Mass Effect game. This game's narrative structure shares similarities in some aspect with the Pathfinder video games created by Owlcat. You're a big shot, and with big responsibilities come big stakes. You'll solve some issues from a distance, making the big decisions. In others, you'll involve yourself personally. In this game, you'll find a total of 10 potential companions, plus 3 secret ones. I say potential because you can miss some of them or not recruit them at all. Of the 3 secret ones, you can recruit one based on your conviction, or more. I ended up recruiting 2 of them in my Heretic run, but I won't talk about them because, you know, they're secret. I wanted to discuss every single one of them, but this section ended up being very long and a little spoilery, so I changed my mind. To give an overview, you're going to meet mostly human companions, or human adjacent I should say, and 2 Xenos. Being a rogue trader, you have ample possibility to recruit whoever you want, without fearing repercussions. Even if you treat them very well and try to understand their culture, from the Imperial citizen perspective, you're keeping them in your retinue as a curiosity, as someone would with a dog of a special breed. Elliot will be especially vocal about this.
I am not your Xenos pet, monkey.
For humans, you'll go from the old and loyal Navy officer, to the unsanctioned psyker, to the Sister of Battle, to the cold trader, meaning the smuggler of Xeno artifacts, to the Inquisition interrogator. From the near-human perspective, and I say this because it's a matter of debate even inside the game if they're still human or not, you can recruit a tech priest, a navigator, and a space marine. There's a general discussion to be had about your companion's convictions. A good chunk of them are dogmatic, so they're going to scorn you, eventually leave you, and possibly fight you if you stray from the Imperial creed.
I woke up with a feeling of wonder, as if a field of flowers was blossoming nearby. A child was saved from death. 1,000 heretics were burning alive, begging and sobbing and howling.
The 2 Iconoclast ones don't care about what you do, and they won't spoil the heretics. There is also something to be said about the Space Marine. He's a space wolf, so he's a weird one and the story justifies the encounter with him, but it somewhat still feels strange in the party. He's quite difficult to maneuver on the battlefield, and I was expecting him to be way more powerful than what he actually is, to the point I was preoccupied about balancing the party, but for me, he was somewhat of a letdown. The Drukhari companion, Marajai, doesn't make any sense to me. He's a ticking time bomb, and there's no reason to have him around, not even if you're evil and want an evil party. Most of them can be romanced if you meet the criteria, meaning how you treat them and if they're receptive about your attention. I say most because the Space Marine is genetically engineered to be interested only in fighting, and the Sister of Battle is, well, a battle space nun. Some will only be interested in male rogue traders, others only in females, and a restricted few won't have a preference in this sense. I follow different romances in my runs, and my suggestion is to not try to be a horn dog, focusing instead on the companion you like the most, or that will fit your rogue trader. Personally, I kinda like mixing different types of characters when I play romances in RPGs. So, with the Dogmatic rogue trader, I got involved with Jay, the cold trader, because she gave me that feeling of a messy romance, perfect for a very inflexible guy. I wasn't disappointed, and it was fun. With my Iconoclast character, I dive deeper into the Eldari culture, romancing Earliet, the Eldari. No pun intended, it's a platonic relationship because she can bear the touch of a barbaric animal like a human. A little verbally abusive on their part, but it was an interesting relationship, in a way, and sad. Eldari are always sad. Also, at the same time, I accidentally started another romance with Cassia, the Lady Navigator, and that led to a confrontation scene, so beware. Finally, with the Heretic rogue trader, I romanced Henrix, the Inquisitor, trying to corrupt him, and he ended up trying to kill my crazy girl. Not disappointed. It was also fun to have a romantic dinner with him, in my quarters, full of cages with tormented prisoners, warp corruption, and a chess table covered in skulls. He commented on the game, not the skulls. I don't think those outcomes are fixed. They depend on how you behave with your companion and how you influence them. So feel free to experiment with the feelings of others. Combat is a huge part of this game. It's very tactical, and higher difficulties can push you a lot. I'll divide it into two sections, ground combat and voidship combat. Ground combat is the meat of this game, apart from the story. It has a cover mechanic, but don't think of this as an XCOM-like game. While in XCOM, stay in the open means death to your soldiers, here cover is important, but there are ways to negate it and to stay in the open without taking any damage. Consider it as another tool at your disposal. Also, there is friendly fire, and you're going to experience it immediately with the cackling Argenta, the Sister of Battle, spraying enemies and friends alike with her bolter. There are abilities and talents to avoid it. I strongly suggest taking them, or you'll find allies shooting you in the back with burst fire. You can do single shot or single target melee attacks, area attacks, and burst fire with automatic weapons. I found burst fire to be extremely powerful if you can avoid destroying your own people with it. Right at the start of combat, you'll enter a positioning phase in which you can set up your party for the combat ahead, unless you're ambushed. This is pretty useful, and having a diviner, a type of psyker, in your party will also avoid some of the ambushes. For the meat of it, I would say that combat in Rogue Trader has two major core mechanics, the action economy and the morale. The action economy is very important here, and is made of movement points, the green bar, and action points, the yellow bar. The MPs are self-explanatory, but the APs need to be managed well. You can attack only once per round, as a rule, so you'll need to spend the rest of your APs on abilities. Those abilities can buff the characters or grant you additional attacks per round, sometimes with maluses. Leveling up, you'll gain more APs and more abilities, so you'll attack more often. But this core mechanic is the most complex to master, given the plethora of abilities and talents at your disposal. Don't despair if you feel overwhelmed. As I said before, the curve is pretty steep at the beginning. You will get the hang of it with experience. The other core mechanic is momentum, the green horizontal bar. Every character has a resolve attribute that should be based on fellowship, but it's not perfectly clear how it's calculated. For a rule of thumb, consider it your morale. The more you kill, damage, and hinder your enemies, the more it fills. Once filled, you can use special abilities called Heroic X, different for each class. Those are very powerful abilities that can make you attack multiple times in a round, and with very strong buffs. There are also Heroic X for very low morale, called Desperate Measures. You'll lose momentum if you're losing people or essentially losing the fight. Those X are pretty much the same but with some maluses. I find this choice interesting because it can really help you turn the tide. I would say that not all Heroic X are created equal. I found myself always using the soldiers or the officers ones, basically those that grant you a lot more attacks in a round. I find offense to be the best defense in this game. Another mechanic is the Veil Degradation. It's the violet horizontal bar on the left. It will fill up using psyker abilities and, true to the setting, bad stuff will start to happen when it's high, from the psyker taking damage to conjuring demons. Once or twice, Idira one-shotted herself using a psyker power, even with Veil Degradation not at maximum, even conjuring demons while expiring. It's interesting because it limits you from spamming psyker powers, but further into the game you may take talents to reduce the filling of the bar, especially with your navigator. Also, you will encounter some fights where the veil is already torn, meaning the bar is almost filled, and be very cautious about what powers to use. Initiative is a simple combat mechanic. You'll see who is going to act as a stack on your left. Consider it as a dish pile, where the first to go are the bottom ones, and you restack them at the top after use. It's weird they didn't choose to show the usual intuitive queue at the top, from left to right. The game separates enemies into groups, so you won't find all your foes acting together before you in an unlucky initiative roll. Initiative should depend on agility and perception plus a random number, so quick and perceptive characters, or foes, are most likely to go first, but it's not guaranteed. Because of the momentum mechanic, you'll encounter a lot of cannon fodder in fights, often facing 20+ enemies. While this is true to the setting, it's also designed to fit the green bar. Consequently, combined with the turn-based combat, battles can become quite lengthy. While engaging in a boss fight for 30 or 40 minutes can be interesting, enduring common fights for 10 minutes each can be tiresome. Additionally, combat is prevalent throughout the game, with the location design focused mostly on smaller areas with fights. Furthermore, you'll find yourself repeatedly using the same abilities, such as buffing yourself before attacking, which can drag out combat.
Victory is imminent!
There is also a preview system that allows you to place a hologram to display your line of sight and ability ranges. However, be cautious not to click on an ability with the hologram on, as your character may execute the action in the wrong place. A helpful tip is that you can save during combat, allowing you to set up your party in the positioning phase, and then quick save before proceeding, which helps in case things go south or a bug occurs. Generally, combat difficulty is mainly challenging at the beginning of the game, regardless of the chosen difficulty level. Regarding voidship combat, once you grasp the core concepts, it becomes manageable and even enjoyable. However, understanding the differences between the ship's movement phases might be confusing, as there are 3 phases with essentially no distinction, except for the requirement to end your turn in the last one, the greenest one. Different engines offer varying ranges of movement, but this doesn't significantly impact gameplay. In terms of ship equipment, prioritize larger numbers. You have different types of weapons for the front, sides, and a 3/4 angle around you, but nothing for the rear, so avoid exposing your ship's rear to enemies. Notably, torpedoes are essential and should not be swapped out for other types of weapons in the ship's equipment. Assigning companions to ship posts based on their specific skills, and purchasing relative abilities when the ship levels up, significantly enhances maneuvering and damage dealing. In summary, voidship combat involves outmaneuvering enemy torpedoes and focusing on one enemy ship at a time. Avoid engaging in combat in the middle of enemy ships, as it leaves your ship vulnerable to attacks from all sides. Early colony projects can grant you an assisting frigate, which is particularly beneficial if obtained from the Imperial Navy due to their faction's provision of ship equipment. In the late game, combat tends to result in swift destruction of targets. The ship itself has its own equipment, some of which you loot from fights, gain through colony projects, or purchase from the Imperial Navy by trading in enemy ships' trophies. The escort ship is smaller than your main ship, but attracts enemy fire and doesn't require repairs if destroyed, reappearing automatically in the next voidship combat without any cost. Additionally, your ship has its own ranks, meaning levels, which increase as you engage in combat. This allows you to learn more post abilities and gain access to ultimate abilities, such as shooting 3 torpedo salvos at a single time. However, these abilities take a long time to recharge and may not be available in every combat scenario. You can upgrade the hull and the ram for scraps, which are gained by defeating enemies in voidship combat. While upgrading the hull increases your ship's hit points and is essential for survival, I haven't found a use for upgrading the ram, as ramming deals significant damage to your ship without offering substantial benefits. The colony system is the secondary game Owlcat seems to enjoy implementing in their games. Luckily, I am happy to report that in Rogue Trader, this set game is less intrusive and much easier to manage. Unlike in Pathfinder Kingmaker, in Rogue Trader you don't have to return to your capital to manage your domain. Instead, you can handle your colonies remotely through a colony management panel. As you explore the expanse, you'll build some colonies and reclaim some older ones that belonged to your predecessor. There are 5 in total, and each one has slots for projects. Projects constitute the bulk of your colony management. They require resources to execute and yield different rewards. Sometimes you'll spend resources on a project, while other times, resources are simply a requirement without being expended. Pay attention to the prerequisites and the results of each project. Some may require completion of others beforehand, and finishing one project may lock you out of others. You begin developing your colonies in Chapter 2, but the most potent projects become available only in Chapter 4. be mindful not to lock yourself out of some of the most powerful ones. Additionally, colonies possess 3 attributes: efficiency, complacency, and security. These factors slightly affect production, with efficiency increasing resource production by 10% per point, complacency boosting profit factor by 10%, but slowing project completion by the same amount per point, and security decreasing resource loss from negative events. More on the profit factor later. This is tedious, and I found that these colony stats are not overly crucial unless they're listed as prerequisites for a project you wish to execute. Periodically, colonies will require the rogue trader's presence to resolve challenging events. You'll need to travel back to the specific colony and personally address the issue. In my early runs, these events were predominantly negative, sometimes causing a drop on my profit factor by 60. Since they're not time sensitive, I ended up ignoring them completely to avoid significant losses. However, in the last run, it seems they have been fixed. Time will pass when you perform a warp jump from one star system to another. Some projects will be completed in one jump, while others may take a few more. Remember to check your colony management panel between jumps. For resources, you'll gather them by placing extractors on planets you explore or from projects. Extractors are mostly obtained from the main story and trading with the Adeptus Mechanicus. To explore a planet, you'll engage in an easier version of the Mass Effect resource hunting. Upon entering a star system, you'll fly to various points of interest. When analyzing planets or planetoids, you'll earn 50 experience points each, and have a chance to discover treasure, resources, events, or places to land. Treasure yields immediate loot, resources add a fixed amount to your economy but require sacrificing an extractor, events are text encounters typically solvable in various ways, and places to land are locations, excluding story maps, that may be dungeons or small areas to explore with your party. You won't be able to extract everything, so a rule of thumb for me was to place an extractor only when a common resource like plasteel or promethium was above 5, and to extract every rare one like adamantine or xenotech instead. Warp travel becomes available in Chapter 2. While it stays true to the setting and conveys the sense of being highly perilous, it can also become bothersome. Initially starting from Furibundus, the system where Footfall is located, you'll plot new routes from every system. Routes are categorized by their danger level: green for safe, yellow for unsafe, orange for hazardous, and red for deadly. Navigator insight points can be spent to decrease the danger level of a route or to create a new one. However, these points are limited. You gain 1 for each system discovered, and 1 or 2 from specific random events during warp travel. The higher the danger level, the greater the likelihood of encountering adverse events. These events range from mere flavor text to ship damage, combat, and more severe consequences. Try to go back to the Imperium, anyone? Typically, it's advisable to navigate through yellow or orange routes, lowering the difficulty of red ones to orange, and being prepared for any eventualities. To streamline travel between colonies, I created a sort of yellow highway between them. That's a good way to spend some navigator insight. During these travels, a certain number of fights are unavoidable. Those are random battles. After encountering them once, you have the option to skip them by having your crew, or a certain entity, engage in combat. Opting for your crew to fight will consume weapons and armor from your cargo. Hence, it's crucial not to sell them, otherwise you'll find yourself engaged in frequent battles and spending considerable time traversing between systems. This system, in my view, is one of the more cumbersome aspects of the game. While it authentically portrays the hazards of warp travel, the repetitive nature of rolling random encounters for each jump, whatever your resolution may be, can be tedious and lacks entertainment value. I mean, I understood this while DMing D&D. There is only so many random encounters a party finds entertaining. You can't keep rolling them forever, or they become a nuisance instead of a bit of fun. The economic system in this game diverges from typical cRPGs. As a rogue trader with vast wealth and ownership of planetary systems and colonies, the notion of paying for individual items, like a Baldur, seems inconsequential. Instead of utilizing thrones or gold coins, the game employs a profit factor system to gauge the strength of your economy. Profit factor is acquired by completing colony projects and making specific choices throughout the gameplay. I mean story choices. Trading is facilitated through your factotum aboard the ship. There are 5 factions from which you can make purchases. The prerequisites for a deal include both profit factor and reputation. Reputation with a faction is earned by selling them the loot stored as cargo on your ship, which you gather adventuring. Each faction has preferred items, and given that it's impossible to maximize reputation with all factions, careful selection is imperative. Once the reputation and profit factor requirements are met, you can acquire the desired item without any expenditure. Not all factions are created equal. While the Casbalicans, meaning the smugglers, can sell you equipment for your Xenos companions, I found out that the Ecclesiarchy, the Tech Priests, and the Navy have the most powerful items. Also, the Navy is the only supplier of ship equipment. A special mention must be made regarding the game journal, but not in a positive light. It contains both your active and completed quests, along with rumors and contracts. Quests are often poorly explained, and this is a common thing in cRPG journals, so the game sticks with the genre, I guess. As of the current recording, there are instances where we have tasks to complete on a planet, yet the quest fails to specify the system in which it is located, necessitating a tedious search for the exact location. Moreover, the game tracks only the main quest on the map, making navigation less enjoyable in this regard. Rumors simply relay hearsay, such as the existence of a lost voidship drifting in space somewhere. However, the specific location is not provided, requiring players to discover it independently. And that's fine, but the issue arises when many of those rumors remain uncleared from your journal, even after discovery and completion, leaving players uncertain if they've missed something. Contracts, on the other hand, involve deals you can strike with various parties, typically involving resource exchange. There is nothing particularly remarkable about them. It's unfortunate, though, that an achievement necessitates completing 20 contracts, yet I counted a maximum of 18 throughout the game. Bummer. One should avoid the mistake of comparing this game with Baldur's Gate 3 in terms of graphics. Character models are not the most important part of cRPGs. What matters here is the art style, and Rogue Trader perfectly captures the essence of Warhammer 40k. The user interface exudes a real Warhammer 40k vibe. It's a bit clunky here and there, but such quirks are common in these types of games. The environments are well crafted, maintaining immersion. From savage worlds to dead worlds and manufactorums, you can experience many of the classic settings of the Warhammer 40k universe. Owlcat chose to create a large number of small areas and a few larger ones for the main story, somewhat limiting ground exploration. The equipment design is good. Models fit the art style of the setting, especially for weapons and armor. However, there were some cutscenes that didn't really hit the mark.
Rough day?
You have no idea.
I just might. That's the second bottle you've downed.
Jai Hidari. Falco sends his regards.
And what does that unholy scion of a Grox and a Brahan want from me this time? Oh, wait, I don't really care. My sole plans for tonight are drowning my grief in a sea of Amasak.
We'll give you grief, all right. Get out!
Don't think so, Ashma. And tell Falco to come himself next time.
On the contrary, the sound department is exceptional. The music is truly epic, spanning different genres and really fitting the setting. Owlcat even released for free on their YouTube channel, by the way. The combat sounds are quite satisfactory, especially for the bolter. You can really feel the impact of those big calibers being shot, as well as the visceral sound of enemies meeting their splattery death. And the characters will be cackling or commenting on their hits. Pure violence at its finest.
Let's see.
Claims another one.
Opposing me was your biggest mistake.
When it comes to voice acting, the quality is outstanding. Characters have impactful voices that help define them, so it's disappointing when this excellent voice acting is absent. You'll often encounter moments where a companion asks to speak to you in private, with voiceover, only for the crucial revelation to be delivered without it.
If I may, I would like to see the chamber of the sacred warrant and kneel before the relic touched by the Emperor himself. A difficult conversation lies ahead of us. and I wish to pray by the relic before I lay my soul bare.
To what do I owe this visit? Yes, but not here. I wouldn't want our conversation to be gossip fodder on the bridge and in the officers' mess.
Oh, yes. I was afraid that my world would wither during this time, that it would turn into a desert or become overgrown with weeds. But what I saw left me truly delighted. My world resembles an endless road, piercing the galaxy itself. I can see no beginning or end to it. But I can see where the road ends for you. It ends much sooner than mine. Like a fleeting flash, the glimmer of a fallen star. A short, beautiful moment. And this road, this moment, I wish to spend with you. Not as a human and a child of Azurion, but as equals. What do you say? Then I would love to see the glow of your world once again. Human emotions are different. Like faraway stars. And they are just as mesmerizing.
This is a real letdown, especially considering how effective those lines are, leaving you with a sense of incomplete storytelling. Patch 1.1 added some voiced lines, so hopefully this issue will be addressed over time. While good voice acting can be costly, in a game like this, where there is a substantial amount of reading, and characters play a crucial role, having them voiced adds significant value. I hope Owlcat will strive to deliver a fully voice-acted game in the future. It greatly enhances immersion and, in games like these, it's arguably more important than graphics. Rogue Trader features several quality-of-life improvements that are similar to those found in the Pathfinder games, yet for some reason have not been included in other cRPG titles. One such improvement is group looting. For example, you can click on an enemy's body to open the inventories of nearby fallen enemies at the same time, and collect everything with fewer clicks. Another helpful feature is the reminder for forgotten loot when leaving an area. Upon exiting, the game will display what you left behind, allowing you to decide whether to leave it or retrieve it. As a loot hoarder myself, I find these solutions invaluable. Another role-playing solution that I really appreciate is the ability to utilize your companion skills to make rolls in the environment and during dialogues. Because it makes sense that if I need to disable a trap, but lack the skill, I'll ask my most proficient companion to handle it. And this is automatic. Similarly, in dialogue, the most persuasive member will attempt to convince someone to assist us. Looking ahead, one improvement I would like to see is a more efficient way to filter the talents available when leveling up. Sometimes, it's unclear whether a talent is common or belongs to a tier. Additionally, it would be beneficial to see which talents influence a particular ability when selecting it during level up or hovering over it in your hotbar. At times, it's challenging to remember the passive bonuses chosen over 50+ levels. I would say this game is a great cRPG, but it has some of the clunkiness typical of the genre. Some of these issues will be addressed with patches, while others are embedded into the type of game it is. A full run, going everywhere and reading everything, can take you a solid 100 hours. It can serve as an excellent introduction to the Warhammer 40k universe for those who already enjoy cRPGs, or, conversely, for fans of the setting looking to explore a cRPG. Expect a learning curve though, and be prepared to consult a guide now and then. If you are seeking a compelling story, likable companions, and a richly established setting, then Rogue Trader is a good choice. Likewise, if you're looking for a tactical challenge, you might find it enjoyable. Just remember to adjust the difficulty to suit your preferences. I'll also note that while romances are present, in my opinion they don't fit the setting. I wasn't expecting them in a Warhammer 40k game. And the traps are a pain. There are a lot of them, and navigating among them is difficult because the character's movement can be awkward in tight spaces. I'll say the game is worth its price of €50 or dollars, but if you prefer to wait and allow the game more time to bake, I can completely understand. Take care of yourself, and thank you for watching.
What are they? They're in the walls, above us, under the floor. They're scratching at my skull. They want to disembowel me, to wear my skin.